In this video, we will discuss where GILTI calculations take place for domestic partnerships and S corporations. Let's start with a basic fact pattern of a domestic partnership with two partners. Partner A owns 95% of the partnership and partner B owns 5%. The partnership in turn owns 100% of a single foreign corporation that is a CFC. We will focus on whether the GILTI calculations take place at the partnership level or at the partner level. The proposed GILTI regulations provide a hybrid approach. For partners that own directly or indirectly 10% or more of the CFC, the GILTI calculations would take place at the partner level. So partner A would calculate its GILTI inclusion amount on its own tax return. For partners that owned directly or indirectly less than 10% of the CFC, the GILTI calculations would take place at the partnership level. So under the proposed regulations, the partnership would calculate the GILTI inclusion amount for partner B. The final regulations abandon the hybrid approach and instead provide that the GILTI calculations are all performed at the partner level. No GILTI calculations are performed at the partnership level. Partner A performs its GILTI calculations on its own tax return. Because partner B does not directly or indirectly own more than 10% of the CFC, partner B has no GILTI inclusion. Let's imagine a similar structure where an S corporation is 95% owned by a shareholder A and 5% owned by shareholder B. S corporations are treated as partnerships for purposes of Subpart F income and GILTI inclusions. As already described, under the final regulations, all of the GILTI calculations are performed at the partner level, and here for the S corporation at the shareholder level. The 95% shareholder computes its GILTI inclusion amount on its tax return, and the 5% shareholder does not have any GILTI inclusion amount. For S corporations that have earnings and profits, this can be a problem. S corporations that have E&P track their S corporation earnings through the accumulated adjustments account. If a GILTI inclusion amount is computed at the shareholder level and not at the S corporation level, the S corporation's AAA will not increase from the GILTI inclusion. Distributions by an S corporation are usually first out of AAA and then out of E&P. If the AAA is not increased for the GILTI inclusions, distributions by the S corporation may eat into the E&P earlier than it otherwise would. Notice 2020-69 allows an S corporation to elect to perform the GILTI calculations at the S corporation level rather than at the shareholder level, at least for as long as the S corporation has E&P. Once the E&P has been distributed, the S corporation reverts to the normal rule where the GILTI calculations are performed at the shareholder level instead of the S corporation level.